think sometimes when people say data regulation or privacy, it can seem like a very niche topic or very nerdy topic, but I really think it's something that affects everybody. From an economic perspective, if you're a small business and you want to serve a customer in India or the EU, or you're a nonprofit and you want to serve individuals all over the world and hear about their experiences, you're relying on data. And so there's an economic component, but also a human rights component of data is how we access information, it's how we learn, it's how we communicate with one another. And so thinking about how we regulate processes, how we ensure the free flow of data is just something that's essential to our economy, but also everybody's everyday living. I think, unfortunately, the space is becoming increasingly complex and increasingly fragmented. When I talk to small businesses, one of the first things I often hear is how difficult it is for them to comply with different regulations, how difficult it is for them to address data localizations or other types of data privacy regulation that increase costs. And so I think the approach that we're advocating for at the Department of Commerce is really looking at two things. One, how do we craft solutions that work for everybody? And that includes small and medium-sized businesses in addition to multinationals. But the second is, how do we focus on interoperability? I think we're all in agreement that we must protect privacy. We must protect other important rights. The question is, how do we create solutions that are interoperable where we can, even though we don't have identical legal systems, we can have common approaches that enable the free flow of information and data for economic and other purposes. Looking forward, going back to I think some of those main themes, I think the two challenges are really how do we create solutions that are going to work for small and medium-sized companies? It's no doubt that we have to address privacy and other things, but how do we create good solutions that work for everybody? I think the second reality is as we're seeing emerging technologies like AI, data and data flows are increasingly important. And so we have to look towards the future of how we craft solutions. In the US, one of the things, if you look at the administration's executive order on artificial intelligence, it doesn't just address AI, it looks at issues like privacy, like civil rights, how we address some of these bigger picture issues to make sure that individuals' rights are appropriately protected, even as we move into these technologies, which have enormous promise and can really transform lives for the better. It's vital. We all have to work together to craft these solutions. There's the very practical piece of it, which is these are the types of dialogues that are important for us to share ideas, to share approaches, to build relationships so we can create the solutions for the future. So I think there's a very practical piece of these dialogues. The second is the more we can create common approaches, the more workable our solutions can be. And so in these dialogues and others, having a large number of stakeholders at the table is important. Government, industry, civil society. We have to bring different ideas to bear. I spend a lot of my time outside the government, so I'm very keen and I understand how important it is to have all of those voices at the table. Going back to I think those same things I mentioned earlier. These are the places where individuals can share ideas, share approaches, where we can talk about how we build solutions for the future. And importantly, these types of venues are where we can also build the relationships that are important. I think, many of the people I've met today, whether we're talking about privacy or AI, share many of the common goals, right? We want a world where people can use data, they can use it for good, and we can innovate. And how we can do that and harness the benefits of technology while addressing potential concerns, I think that's going to pave the way towards a better future for our countries from an economic standpoint, from a human rights standpoint, and from an innovation standpoint. I think the main message I want to share is how important cross-border data flows are. It's sometimes, we jump straight to the substance and we forget, why are we really focusing on this issue? And cross-border data flows, if you're in a countries across the world and you want to access information, you might be relying on cross-border data flows. If you are in a country and you want to seek medical treatment these days, often you might be relying on cross-border data flows. If you're a small company that makes a very niche product, but you want to serve a market around the world, or you want to connect with a different business who can augment your market, you're probably going to rely on cross-border data flows. And so, I think it's important to understand why this is so fundamentally important and why it's vital that we all work together to think about how we build a future that protects privacy, addresses, I think, the concerns that have been raised, but still facilitates the flows that are essential for all of these reasons.